Hey mamas, welcome to your prenatal series and this set of first trimester practices. The first trimester practices, along with the ones that will follow in the second and the third, are all levels practices, an open invitation to connect with your body, the rhythm of your breath, and the moment that you're in. There's no prerequisite to have yoga experience before you start this series. And it definitely isn't meant to be a really rigorous exercise regime. Some of us who have a long-standing yoga practice can still really enjoy regular yoga classes in our first trimester. And there are actually 2 videos in this beginning set that are based for those of us with a more regular yoga practice on days that our energy feels high enough that we might be up for that. The symptoms of the first trimester can be kind of severe, so it's not uncommon that most of us actually need practices that are pretty grounding and gentle. We don't feel like energy is at its highest often in the first trimester, and you might be experiencing tiredness, exhaustion, bloating, tenderness, nausea, morning sickness, all of these great things. Hormones kind of run rampant, especially in the beginning as this big shift of life is beginning to occur. So give yourself time. The whole intention, particularly of this first class, is to remember that you can stop and meet yourself exactly where you are. Everything that I offer is merely suggestion. So if in your body, anything that we do doesn't feel good, please skip it. Choose to do something different, or consider doing it in a different way that might feel more available or more expressive in your body. Something that ideally is going to bring you space and ease. We're going to get going quite slowly. I would highly recommend having, at the very least, a blanket or a pillow, something that you can sit on, and something that you can use to prop into the spaces beneath you at times that you'd like the earth to come up just a little bit more. For those of us that have yoga blocks, they're always handy. Great idea to pull those out with your yoga mat every time that you set up your practice space. But they're not imperative at this point in the practice. So don't worry if you don't have them. You could always find different things to substitute. You can even take thick hard-covered books and use that to bring the earth up a little bit closer. And if you do have an interest in buying some yoga blocks, you can pretty much get them everywhere now. You can find name brand ones or just into the sporting section of your local department store. They'll probably have something that will fit the bill. To start our class today, we're going to start in a seated place. So depending on how it feels for you to take a seat, you might consider putting something under your seat. Once we lift the hips up away from the floor, we find that hips and knees can generally get closer to the same plane or level. If knees sit up really high, this starts to put pressure down into the hip sockets, which generally shows up in our low back. So the higher we can sit ourselves in this moment, the more we'll encourage our knees to sink and get into some space where we have the ability to sit up brightly and tall. And of course, when we do that, we're opening this whole plane of the front of us for breath. Let's meet here. Take a roll of your shoulders. Close up your eyes. Breathe a big breath in through your nose until you feel full. And then softly part your lips and let go of an exhale. The essence of the beginning centering here is to meet ourselves exactly as we are, exactly where we are. So I'd love you to begin to notice what it feels like to draw breath into your body until you feel full without force. And then watch as you release it and let it go. How does that feel? How long does that take? And you don't have to do anything fancy with the breath as we get going here. So you don't have to feel like you need to change it or fix it or manipulate it at all. Just begin to watch your natural rhythm. Breath coming in to fill your body. And breath leaving all the way back out. Reconnecting with our breath in the moment that we're in is a really surefire anchor back into our present moment. It's the tendency of the mind to want to leap forward into the things that are coming, or turn continuously over things that have already been in the past. And the invitation to you for this practice is to welcome yourself to be as you are where you are. Flush out your breath so it begins to find an even quality between the inhale coming in and filling you up, and the exhale leaving and sweeping out. And if it's comfortable in your body, I would invite you now to pick up your hands and lay one over your heart and one down low over your belly. Now, depending on how many weeks you are within your first trimester here, it is entirely possible that this expectation of yours is still a secret to most of the world. Maybe it's something that you have only shared with those who are the most near and dear. And outwardly to the world, it doesn't seem as though you are pregnant. Although if you're experiencing any of these very delightful first trimester symptoms, you very much know that you are. But in this moment and through these classes, we really want to find a beautiful link with our baby. Your breath is an anchor back into all the systems of your body. Your circulatory system, your respiratory system, the greater central nervous system of your body, your endocrine system. And at this point in your life, during this special phase, you share all of this with your beloved, the one that you grow. So consider that the way that you influence and shape your breath gives deep benefit to the both of you. Let's take 3 more with intention right now, just like this. And when your next exhale comes, release your hands down slowly and let them fold onto the top of your lap. You can choose to have eyes open or closed. We're going to start to take the body in a slow spinning around the base of the hips and the spine. And so it really doesn't matter to me so much what this looks like. As soon as you feel comfortable, yes, my body is kind of spinning around the base of my hips. What I would highly recommend is to close your eyes and to start to let the tissue of your body express itself as you move here. So all of us will find that we have tender places bound up in different places. Some of us, it's going to be low down into the hips, and some of us more into the outer edges of our rib cage and our side waist. You might find that you're really called to start to move through the space of your chest or your upper back or your shoulders or even into your head and your neck. And so what I would invite you to do is move into the places within your own body that feel like maybe they're slightly sticky. And then see, if you haven't done it already, if you have the ability to maybe stitch your breath into this movement. So maybe the inhale takes you one way and the exhale takes you the other way. At some point, find yourself collected back into center and then go the other way just for a couple of spins. And it might be a little counterintuitive to go the other way for a moment. Just see what you can do to feel it out. And then again, meet me back into center in a tall seat and drop your fingertips down to the floor. Sitting up to your tallest height, open through the front of the chest. Use an inhale and sweep your arms out to the sides, stretch through your waist. And then as you exhale, turn your hands over and sweep all the way back down to the earth. Good, we're gonna do that 3 more times. Every inhale, slowly stretch up. And to the entire length of the exhale, turn your palms over like the air resisted you, like you're swimming through heavy water. 2 more. And with the inhale, potentially we invite in something new. And with an exhale, we cleanse and release and let something go. Great. When your fingertips come back to the floor, you're going to leave your right hand back behind you and climb your left hand up onto the tip of your left knee. Sit really, really tall through your spine, and then with a slow exhale, you're going to begin to revolve your whole chest over toward the right side. Take the very tip of your right arm bone, the tip of your shoulder, and also circulate it backward, rolling it onto the back. Now, the beauty of this open chest twist is that this gives us a space to peel open the front of the chest and the shoulders and the collarbones without having to twist deeply across the center of the navel. So some of the things that we avoid through our prenatal practice, especially in the beginning before a belly is formed, is to make sure that we don't twist really deeply across the center of our navel. As you exhale, turn your chest forward and change sides. So your right hand can rest on your knee and your left fingertips base back behind you. Again, sit brightly and tall and begin to revolve and open your chest open toward the left side. So particularly in some of these early weeks of pregnancy, as baby's still creating a strong attachment into the inner uterine wall, we want to be careful to not do anything that might change that attachment, and twisting across the base of the belly, particularly in really strong activated yoga practices, is common sometimes. So we avoid that here with prenatal. When your exhale comes, turn your chest forward, look forward, rinse your shoulders all the way up, back, and down. Now, however it makes sense to you, we're going to kick our feet around and come over to a tabletop pose. Depending on what kind of floor you have in your practice space, if you find that the underside of your kneecaps gets tender, open a blanket across the mat, give yourself some padding beneath the knees. Take a deep, wide spread of the fingers. So the middle finger points forward and all other fingers spread from that space so the inside of the hands can plug down. And then with an inhale, you're gonna roll the space of your chest forward, lift your gaze to where it's comfy. And then when your exhale comes, push the floor away, round the upper back, and release your head. Good. Every inhale slides the breastbone forward, pick your tailbone up. And when your exhale comes, push the floor away, make space between your shoulder blades, let your head hang. Let's move through 3 more with our own breath. Take your time and let the breath lead. Every breath has an action, and every action has a breath. Great, 1 more like this, heart forward. Push the floor away and round. Release your head, your shoulders, your neck. Good, as you inhale and lift your chest forward, we're gonna walk our knees out a bit wider for child's pose. Have your toes tracking toward one another and drop your hips back toward your heels. We're gonna try to lay our forehead either toward the earth, or if that feels like a strain, fold the hands and the forearms and rest your forehead to the back of your hands. Now, friends that are comfortable to rest here, I'd love you to just do that for a few breaths. Friends that find this pose uncomfortable, you can always consider variations that don't drop your hips back so far. So if it feels better to keep your hips higher up in space so that hips are staying fairly directed over knees, you could always choose to fold your elbows and your forearms down here. You'll still give a soft weight of hips back toward heels, but it likely will be less compressive into the hip crease or into your knees, or for some of us into our ankles. If you have the ability to sink hips back lower toward the heels, please do. We're going to collect a big breath all together. Good, so friends who find it available here, you're going to stretch your arms out longer in front of you. And then with an inhale, hand by hand, you're gonna walk the whole space of your upper body over toward the right side. And as you start to make contact with your right leg, your thigh bone, the top of the thigh, the knee, you're gonna look to release your head heavy again through the space of your upper arm. Some of us will bow the head completely to touch the earth. And you're gonna breathe into your left side rib cage for 2 long and full breaths. Wait for your own inhale and walk slowly back through center. And then with an exhale, we'd go all the way over to the left side. So same thing on the second side. For some of us, as we stretch out into this place, there is an availability to really stretch quite far. So you might even take the back of your right hand and stack it onto the space of the back of your left. The palm of the right hand to the back of the left. And again, breathe into the sticky spaces between your rib cage. We'll take one more. And hand by hand, walk back through center and pause. And then with an inhale, push through hands and knees and glide up. Knees come into a space there no wider than the outer hips. And I'm going to invite you to just take your hips in a deep sway side to side. We'll collect back into the center where the knees stay stacked over the hips. And then we're going to start to walk our arms as far forward as is comfortable to reach toward the front edge of the mat. We're going to let our head hang through the space of the upper arms. And for friends whose foreheads can come to rest straight to the mat, that's wonderful. Go there and I'll meet you there in a sec. Friends whose heads sort of float in space, I would love you to consider taking your folded blanket or your block and putting it here under your forehead so that there is no strain through the space of your neck. At the very least, I would love you to feel like you don't have to hold the weight of the head up with your neck muscles. Breathe into the lengthening you can find through your shoulders and your upper back by pushing your hands into the floor and stretching back to your tailbone for one more. Good. With an inhale, look forward. Walk your hands back towards you under your shoulders and take your hips in a sweep side to side. So this next one, you're going to have options. And this totally depends on how your energy feels today. If you do this video a number of times, you might make different choices on different days. You can go right back to the child's pose where we were. You can take another variation of the pose we just did. I'm going to call that puppy dog. Or you can bring your hands a little bit further in front of your shoulders, about 6 to 8 inches. This is for friends with more energy in this moment. And you're going to turn your toes under and lift your hips up really high for your first downward facing dog. Now you might find that you choose to take the downward dog and your energy or your nausea says no thank you for today. And if that's the case, really no problem. Bring your knees back to the floor and either go to the puppy dog or child's pose. Those of us that are going to stay to explore this down dog, I really recommend pedaling the legs. So a deep bend into one knee and a sinking of the opposite heel a few times. Some of us even like to pick up on both tippy toes at the same time, lower heels down at the same time. You might want to wiggle your bum side to side, stretching out through your side waist, your lower ribs. Wherever you are, you can take one more big breath. And then you're going to look up toward your hands. All of us will look to our hands, and however it makes sense, walk or climb or crawl and come to the top of the mat. When you get to the top, bring your feet out about as wide as your hips. Take a deep flexion in your knees, and we're going to roll our body up to stand. Take your time. When you get to the top, use an exhale to circulate your shoulders back and down. Stand to your tallest height. So mountain pose, this pose where we stand at the top, is an important foundational posture. And so if you have a long-standing yoga practice, this is an opportunity to re-engage in this idea of beginner's mind. And if this is new to you, this is really important to find a space where you feel settled and stable and balanced. Pick up the toes of your feet and try to feel the corners of your feet, inner and outer edges of the front and back of the foot. Now, depending on how many weeks you are, it's quite possible you can see your feet right now. This is a luxury that's going to probably be taken away from you in the weeks to come. So look to your feet if you can see them. Plug the corners of the feet evenly to the floor, and then using that pressing Lift up through the whole body until the crown of the head feels like it's extending to its highest height toward the ceiling. Rest your shoulders down out of your ears. Take a soft spin of your palms forward. This will help carve the chest open. And then take a full body breath all the way in and all the way back out. Good. When your in-breath comes, sweep your arms up high, stretch the whole body. When your exhale comes, flex a bit through your knees and fold over the front of your legs, let it go. Good. Come halfway up with an inhale. Put your hands under the front of your shins. Pull your chest away from your tail, like your whole body creates a table. And then exhale, release your head and your neck and fold. Great. Arms to the sky with an inhale, stretch up. Hands come down through the center of your heart to close that cycle. We're going to take one more like that. Inhale to reach up high. Follow your own breath to exhale, dive down and fold. Please take your time. Get halfway up with an inhale, long and slow. Exhale, release the head and fold. And arms to the sky with a big long inhale. And then hands through the center of the heart. Okay, finding that rhythm but adding on. Big inhale to lift up high. Slow exhale to bow, forward fold. We're going to check out this forward fold for a couple more breaths. Friends that are really comfortable to release the crown of the head to the floor, let your upper body slink toward the earth. This is great. Indulge in this moment. A lot of us need some flexion in the knees here to give some forgiveness and some spaciousness to the place of the low back. So if the back of the legs is really speaking to you, or the place of the low back doesn't feel so hot right now, bring more flexion into the knees as you fold here. Some of us find a deep benefit from bracing with elbows to the lower spaces of thigh bones. So in any moment that we take a forward fold at any portion of our prenatal practice, this is a really great place to come. Wherever you are, take one more full breath. Good. When your next inhale comes, bring your hands up onto your shins. We're going to come to that halfway lift, but this time we're going to pause here. I find halfway lift is one of those poses that we kind of gloss over, we don't spend enough time with. The intention with halfway lift is from the tailbone through the breastbone, through the crown of the head, we grow long. Your shoulders should plug back, so the front of the chest and the collarbones peels wide. And it's as though we create literally a side table. Like if we wanted to set a tray of tea on our backs and our shoulders, we'd be able to hold that up. Take a long breath in here. Good. When your exhale comes, release it and fold. Even through both your feet, reach your arms out to the sides, stretch all the way up. And then when your exhale comes, bring your hands through the center of your chest. Awesome. Fingertips down to the sides. Pause back into mountain pose. Meet yourself where you are. Take a full breath to feel what you feel. Energy awakening. We're going to take another round. With a big inhale, stretch up high, and this time, use an exhale to flex into your knees and squat your hips down towards your heels, chair pose. Now, prenatal chair pose, I want you to take all of the engagement out of your belly, bring it more so into the strength of the legs. Soften your shoulders down out of your ears and take one more big breath. Good. When your exhale comes, lead with your chest, spill over the front of your legs and fold. Halfway up. Exhale, fold. Fingertips set to the floor, and you're going to step your right foot back. We're going to take what's called Warrior One. So if you know Warrior One well, plug your back heel down at about a 45 angle degree. And if you're learning it for the first time, the blade edge of your foot is about a diagonal, toes toward the long edge, heel toward the far edge side. You're going to push evenly through your feet and lift yourself forward. Bring your hands up into your chest. Warrior One has us facing the front of the mat. Our hip points and our shoulder points roll forward. In order to do this, we need to have a nice bend into the front knee stacks over the ankle, and our back hip is rolling internally toward the center so we can neutralize our hip points. Keep this. If it feels like you have space, lift your arms up high, lengthening your sides, and we're going to take 2 more breaths. Good. When your exhale comes, bring your hands down onto your hips. And when your inhale comes, squeeze your front legs straight. So when both legs are pulled towards straight, we want to feel a power in the legs, like inner thighs hug toward one another to keep the hips pulling forward. We're going to keep that, lift the chest up with an inhale. And when your exhale comes, you're going to hinge over through the front of your hip crease until you feel a long stretch happening through the back of the left leg. When you get here, you could release your hands to your thigh, to your shin, to the floor, or if they're available, onto your blocks. Pull length through the space of your back and breathe into the stretch you feel into your left leg. We'll take one more. Good. When your exhale comes, big bend back into your left knee. You're gonna push into that foot and step the right foot up to meet it. Bring both your feet even, all four corners, and then inhale your chest up halfway. Good. When your exhale comes, drape your body and fold. Arms to the sky with an inhale, lift and stretch up. Exhale, bring your hands through your heart. Good, try to find some rhythm, do that exactly again. Inhale to lift. Squat into your knees with an exhale, chair pose. Last chair pose of the class. Release your shoulders, breathe a strong breath. And when your exhale comes, lead with your heart and fold over your legs. Half extension with your inhale. Exhale, release your fingertips. You're gonna step your left foot back. So same thing as the other side, we're gonna take a warrior one. And what I highly recommend, particularly to my prenatal moms, is to take your left foot and step it a bit wide so our heels don't cross on the mat. As you're ready, lift up through center so your hips and heart reach forward, hands into the center. So traditionally this pose has our feet aligned, our front heel toward our back heel. But I find particularly for those of us going through pregnancy and we really want an even rotation through our hips, stepping the back foot wider out to the edge of the mat gives a rotation to the hips as we try to roll everything forward. If it feels good, lengthen the sides to lift the arms and breathe into the whole space of your side. Good, when your exhale comes, bring your hands down onto your hip points. And when your inhale comes, straighten out through the front leg. Just like last time, pull the inner thighs toward one another, lift up through the front of the chest. And with an exhale, you're gonna hinge through your hip crease and bow over the front of your leg. You only have to go to a space that you feel something. So as my teacher Bernie would say, if you're feeling it, you're doing it. There's no point to go anywhere deeper than what the sensation says you're already doing. Take one more long breath. Feed the pose with your breath. Good. When your exhale comes, big bend back into your right knee. Push through that foot and step up. Come halfway up. Fold and let it go. Great. Arms to the sky. Stretch high. Hands through the center of the chest. Okay, we're going to take one more round of play. Big inhale to sweep up. And a slow exhale to dive back down, forward fold. Please take your time. Follow your own breath. Use your inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale, release, and fold. Touch your fingertips to the floor. We're gonna step the left foot back again. And this time we're gonna turn the whole left heel down until the blade edge of your left foot rides parallel to the back of the mat. When you feel steady through your feet, lift your arms up so your fingertips can reach forward and back. Warrior two. Warrior two is different than warrior one. We might need to get some wiggles out of the feet so we feel like we're even, like all four corners of the feet, just like mountain pose are plugging in. And just like the first warrior, like every warrior, we want our knee to stack right over the center of our front ankle. The difference here between warrior one and warrior two is our hips are opening to the long edge of the mat. So there is an external rotation of our femur bones, our thigh bones, and our hip sockets. You'll feel this stretching out through the inner groins, opening through the outer hips. Stretch your arms wide. When your in-breath comes, straighten the front leg. When your exhale comes, sink back in. Let's do that twice more. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, sink. Again, straighten. Good, and then sink. Bring your front elbow to come down and rest on your front thigh, and let your back hand rest on your hip as you start to open your whole chest toward this long left edge of the mat. You could choose to keep your hand on your hip as a really secure place, or if you feel like a deeper stretch, reach your fingertips straight up out of your shoulder. And if you have a full side ankle practice and it feels good, you can turn your palm toward the earth, stretch your fingertips all the way over your top ear, keep your chest lifted with your lower elbow, and take one more big breath. Good. With an inhale, back up to warrior two. And with an exhale, take the bend out of the front knee and transfer your hands to your hips. We're going to change this whole thing over. So your right toes are going to turn and pivot to the long edge of your mat. And your left toes are going to turn out now to the back of your mat. When you get here, big bend into the left knee, heel toe around till you feel steady, and then float your arms out of your shoulders, reach fingertips forward and back. So often what happens with the strength of this front leg before it's really strongly developed is the knee tends to drop into center. What I would love you to do is strengthen your legs so you can pull your knee back right to the center of the ankle, and you'll know it's landed when you can spy your big toe on the inner edge of your front knee. 3 pulses together. Inhale, squeeze front leg straight. Exhale, sink back in. 2 more like this. Follow your breath. 1 more time. Great. Use your front elbow, your left elbow, towards your thigh. Use your back hand onto your hip, or if it feels good, stretch your shoulder by reaching fingertips all the way up out of the shoulder. You can always transfer a deeper stretch, turning the palm toward the floor and stretching top fingertips over your top ear. Last big breath. Go with an inhale back to warrior two. And then with an exhale, take a bend out of the front knee, hands onto hips. Last time, turn all 10 toes to the long edge of the mat. So the left toes pivot. You might even find that it feels good to open the stance or close it slightly. We're gonna bring ourselves through center. Use an inhale to pick your chest up. And with an exhale, push your bum bones away and come to fold. The second that you feel the back of your legs, I would love you to reach down toward the floor. And if the floor feels far away, consider using something. So whether that's a pillow, a block, a book, bring the floor closer. Rinse out the crown of the head so the neck muscles can let go. And then if it feels available to you, you're gonna take a deeper stretch through your side waist by walking your arms or your fingertips far out in front of your shoulders. Center the weight through your feet so you can feel all 4 corners of your feet, and take one more huge breath. Really great work. Take some flexion in your knees, walk your hands back beneath your shoulders, and with this flexion remaining in your knees, hands are gonna rise to your hips and you're gonna pull your chest up to come to stand. Good. When you get here, heel toe your feet back toward one another, and then turn and take a step back to the head of the mat. We're gonna take a moment to balance, and you could do that right where you are, right at the head of the mat. Depending on the type of floor that you practice on, standing on a squishy mat, particularly if you have a carpeted room, can be a little challenging. So if you feel like today is not a super stable day, you could choose to maybe hold onto a chair or be a little bit closer to a wall to practice this. Again, looking to your feet, because you have that luxury in this moment, I would like to encourage you to bring your big toes toward one another. So either a soft space between your big toes, a narrow hip distance, or even bring them all the way together to touch. You touch your hands together in your heart. And as you do this, press one palm into the other so the arms begin to activate and the chest lifts up. This is called our midline or our central intelligence. Keep it. Move all your weight down into your left foot. Take a soft flexion into your right knee. So this starts to de-weight the right leg. And when you're ready to, you're gonna open your right knee out toward the right side. So the knee opens, which translates up into hip. That opens too. Your right toes can stay to the floor with your heel standing to your inner left ankle. Or maybe you'll challenge yourself to step away from the floor. You might need to step out and come back, and that's totally fine. Try to stare at something that doesn't move and breathe. If you feel steady, the foot can travel up into the inner calf. And if that's working out really well, you could even lift the foot above into your inner thigh. I would love you to come above or below your knee joint if possible. Now the final expression is maybe branches grow. So if it feels good, reach your fingertips to the sky. Spread your hands out wide if you prefer that. Take a balance beam if that makes more sense. Or always nest the hands back into the heart. If you step out, no problem. Try to come back and meet yourself where you are. We're going to take one more big breath. Good. When your exhale comes, bring your hands back into your chest and step your foot down to the floor from wherever it is, and just take a little pedal to recalibrate your legs. And then looking back to the feet, make sure feet are evenly plugged. Bring the hands back into the center so you can reassess where your center is, and shift your weight slowly and lovingly over toward the right foot. A little flexion through the left knee. When you're ready, the left knee opens. You can stay here like this, or step the foot up, up, up and away. This might be your wobbly side, so if that's what you're encountering, be kind. It's less about doing the pose and more about creating an attitude around exploring the pose. Breathe with everything you have. So as we meet the challenges of life in general, you're going to meet lots of challenges through pregnancy, lots of challenges through birth. Oh my goodness, so many challenges through motherhood. We need to harness this breath. So we need to breathe through the challenges that we encounter. We're going to take one more. Good. When your exhale comes, bring your hands back down into the center of your chest and try to step the foot down to the floor and give everything a little shake and a pedal and let it go. Take a big step back onto your mat. We're going to be about midway, and then you're going to open your feet kind of wide so your toes are turned into an outward turnout, kind of like a duck. Take a couple of test squats to make sure that your knees are working in the same direction as your toes. And what we're going to work ourselves through, I refer to as our prenatal squats. There are 3 things that we're going to do every class, and I figure let's start it right now in the first trimester, and we'll develop each of them all the way through the various classes of our second and third. So the first of the 3 things that we do every class are these prenatal squats. And in the early classes of first trimester, we'll do a few of them each class. And through the second, we'll do a couple more. And through the third trimester videos, we're going to do more of them in preparation of baby moving lower, pelvis preparing to expand, getting ready for that incredible day of our triumphant, fear-free, easy birth. For today, let's just find a rhythm. Let's just meet ourselves where we are and find our breath. So this is what it looks like. It is 2 full breath cycles. The first inhale pushes evenly through your feet and stretches your whole body up. And then your first exhale brings your hands through the center. You're going to squat through your knees and meet yourself where you are. Let's take a couple of breaths this first time so we can assess our own squat. This is a perfect squat. Elbows on thighs or lifted quite high, no problem. If it's possible, reach your fingertips to the floor and see if you can squat your bum down toward the earth. No problem if your heels lift even. But what we want to do on the second inhale is plant the heels, release the head, and roll up. The second exhale drops your shoulders back and down, stand tall. Let's take 3 more like that. Inhale to stretch. Exhale, come down to whatever the edge of your squat is. Release your head, use the second inhale to roll all the way up. And the second exhale to stand tall, open your chest. Follow your own rhythm, please. 2 more. We don't have to match each other. It doesn't matter how long your poses or your breath are. And then we're going to do a half to complete the cycle. We're going to meet together in a variation of a squat, wherever that is. So again, remember that can be high, or that can be low. That can be with fingertips, with heels popped up, no problem. You might find over time your heels actually soften to the floor. Wherever you are, you're going to take one more really bright, really big, really full breath. Good, and then to the best of your ability, bring your fingertips back down, however it is that makes sense to you, and come all the way to sit. I'd love you to touch the soles of your feet together and your knees wide. This might be a really fantastic time to lift your seat up higher again onto something that you like to sit on. Some of us, when the knees are hinging open wide, it starts to pressurize through the space of our hips or the space of our inner groins. So if you have blocks, or even if you have throw cushions on your pillow, on your pillow, on your couch, pillows from your couch, really anything. You can take rolled towels. It might be something nice to tuck in beneath the spaces of outer thigh bones, outer knees, to catch this open splay. And if this just doesn't work in general, crisscross your legs, it's no problem. The second thing that we're gonna do in every prenatal video, and we're gonna do it now, is find a connection between deep focused breath and lift, engagement, and full release of muscles of the pelvic floor. Muscles of the pelvic floor are gonna be wildly important on the day of your birth. And they're gonna be wildly important on the rebuild after birth. And because we're women, they're just wildly important. So I would recommend that we take some time to really cultivate this deep inner strength. And if this isn't something that you've done or you haven't done for a while, the next time that you have to pee, and you're gonna have to pee all the time because you're pregnant, the next time that you have to pee, see if you can turn off and on the flow of your urine a few times, like really turn it off. Squeeze and engage, and then soften, even open. Don't pee here. We're gonna try to find this lift and movement with our breath. For some of us in the beginning, as we start to tune to this practice, there seems to be a connection between lift of the pelvic floor and also lift of the muscles of the anus, and that's totally normal. You'll find over time that it becomes more subtle, where you're able to separate these two regions and spaces. Do your best. Sit up tall, close your eyes, clear an easy breath, bring it in, clear it out. When your inhale comes, breathe the breath all the way into your body and see if you can start to feel a subtle lift of muscles of the pelvic floor all the way up and in. And as you exhale, release your breath and release the muscles. And the length of the inhale, almost like an elevator with muscles of the pelvic floor. So from the low space, mid, high, top, all the way back out, full release of breath, full release of muscle. See if you can time this with your own breath so it makes sense to your own body. Get curious where you feel the lift and engagement and where it stops. Some of us find as we breathe in this way, we can even start to feel engagement of muscles of the pelvic floor starting all the way from the outer edge of vaginal wall to the top space back behind our navel. Meet yourself where you are, breath and body. There is no expectation. We're gonna take 5 more. Really great. The next time you exhale, releasing breath and muscles of the pelvic floor completely. Draw your attention back simply to breath and take 2 easy breaths in and out without any other action necessary. And slowly crack your eyes open. Use your hands to help guide you. We're going to pull the knees back together and kick the legs out long down the mat. It might even feel good to walk your hands slightly back behind you so you can lean your chest open. I even like to bring movement down through my ankles and my toes. Wiggle, point, flex, roll. And then when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to join me for the final thing that we're going to do every class. Bring yourself into a comfortable seat. So if crossing your legs is good, do that. If you would prefer to kneel or sit in a different place, if you really love that soles of the feet together, knees wide, do that. And we're gonna go through an exercise that I call a keep up, or my teacher referred to as experiential preparation. Now, total disclaimer, I know this is gonna be nothing like birth. The intensity that goes on through labor and birth is really special. But as women, we have the great honor of bringing life forward, and we have that honor because we have the capacity to do so. Through the progress of our prenatal practices together, we climb into the mental space of empowerment of knowing that when the day of our birth comes, we'll meet it bravely, knowing that we can assess and access our own inner power through our most difficult hour. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to invite you to lift your arms. Lifted arms with palms turned open automatically starts to fire up the muscles that hold the arms up through the length of the arms themselves, through the shoulders, through the back, maybe even slightly into the neck. Now, this isn't the real deal, so if it starts to get too heavy, you can lower your hands, take a couple of breaths, skip it completely, that's fine. It's not a test. But if it's available to you, I'd love you to close your eyes now, and for nearly 1 minute, we'll breathe here like this. The breath pattern that I'd love you to follow is in through your nose, and then open your lips and your mouth and fog out your exhale. In through your nose, fogging out through your exhale. Now keep breathing like that as I talk to you, reminding you of the incredible cultivated power that you harness as a mother. Obviously, the lift and hold of muscles of the upper back can be intense in a different way. What we're trying to learn is that we can mechanize deep inner wisdom and deep spaces of moving through something that is impermanent. Birth is impermanent. So we're working to a space where we can really empower ourselves and recognize the incredible gift of this breath. Let's take a final 3. If it's helpful, let the exhale be quite audible. In through the nose, out through the mouth. 2 more. And a final one. Good, let this exhale lower your hands. When you get your hands back on your lap, use an inhale to pick up your shoulders in a soft roll. Exhale to drop the shoulders back and down. One more like that, inhale up under the ears. Exhale, drop them back and down. Let your fingertips drape down to the sides, and if it feels okay, even start to walk them slightly back behind you. Take a soft fold of your chin forward into your chest so the muscles start to lengthen slightly through the space of the back of your neck. A solid exhale again releases your shoulders. And slowly tip your left ear over towards your left shoulder and pause. Take a couple of breaths. And then roll your chin down through the center of your chest and change sides. Right ear over toward right shoulder and pause. Right, and then last time, chin back through the center of your chest. Inhale, lift up the crown of your head. Lift your shoulders dramatically. And a final time, use an exhale, drop them back and down. Okay, meet me in a place like where we started, where one hand lifts up over your heart and one hand sits low over your belly. And if you're comfortable, please close your eyes. And just come back to a place where you can feel the chemistry of your body. Get reacquainted with how your breath is moving and how long it is and where it goes in your body. Maybe you can feel a rise and a fall of both hands, both the one on your chest and the one on your belly. It doesn't take long to help draw ourselves back into a state of clarity with a bit more ease or peace or presence. This is important for us always, but particularly as we take on or develop our role as a mother. So whether this is your first pregnancy or you're adding on to your family, I hope you do recognize that your health is important to the health of your baby, both now as you grow them within you and later as you live in harmony with them outside. What we do is modeled to our children. They look to us as those models. Healthy mom, healthy baby. Calm mom, calm baby. In this moment, the movement of your breath, the beating of your heart, the movement of your blood is literally the soundtrack for your child. And when you take the time to harness the breath, to focus upon it, to change the way that you're breathing and the expanse that you're breathing, this begins to affect all of those systems. Breathing deeply gives us access back into our parasympathetic nervous system that says and sends the signal, I want to be at ease. And taking time to put ourselves into this state is in reverence, not only to ourselves, but to our growing child. Healthy mom, healthy baby. Calm mom, calm baby. One more great big breath of love here. When your exhale comes, let your hands rinse down. However it is that it makes sense to you, I'm going to invite you to a couple of moments of relaxation. If you are still comfortable lying on your back body, consider meeting me here. Laying down onto the mat, you might like to take a moment and create a pillow for yourself, or you might like to cover up with a blanket, tuck things in under your knees. You might be inclined to keep the knees bent with the feet on the floor, or maybe it feels good to stretch the legs out long. If lying on your back isn't a particularly comfortable arrangement, you could welcome yourself to turn off toward a side. That's not a problem at all. You can take a comfortable relaxation pose on a side body, curl up with a pillow, nestle yourself into a shape that will hold you. And I know when we're in a home practice, it's really easy to skip this part, but please consider for just a couple minutes more releasing your body and letting all of the movement of breath and blood and intention distill and settle into this space. Let your physical body fall and be supported. Take a scanning through all parts of yourself and notice if anything needs to release or let go. Take a final conscious breath, knowing you can also release control of that and it will support you without a thought. And savor a moment that is 100% for you to simply rest and be with nothing else to do and no one else to please. Keep your body really calm and still. And draw your attention back onto the movement of your breath. For 3 big breaths, fill up completely. And empty out entirely. Consider if there are any places you'd like to take soft wiggles or rolls or stretches through your physical body. And then without being in a rush, consider rolling off toward your side if you're not there already. And we often pause on our side body at the end of practice to just take a moment of inventory for ourselves. Recognize if anything's come up or been remembered, been made clear, been released. When you're ready to, push a free hand into the floor and bring anything that's meaningful with you back into a final seat. Sit in any way that's comfortable to you when you rise. Settle your hips, and if it feels interesting or inviting in your body, bring a hand over your heart again and a hand down onto your baby. These beginning weeks in our first trimester can be all kinds of things. An emotional roller coaster. Havoc on the body, perhaps. But from this moment forward, whether this is your first child or you're adding on, you really truly get to take on the beautiful space of mothering, starting now. May you recognize the incredible benefit of taking time for yourself, so that the time that you take for yourself to take care of your own health and your own heart will translate so deeply into taking care of this one that you already love so much. I am so excited to share the weeks of pregnancy with you. The light that burns within me sees and deeply bows to the multiple incredible sources of light that burn within you. From my heart to yours. Namaste.